Hello and welcome to Heroes of Boredom Reviews. Today we're going to be talking about, you guessed it, the Dremel Idea Builder. So stay tuned and we'll talk about how we've 3D printed all this stuff and what we think about it. Alright, so let's first start off with a brief breakdown of exactly what you get with this 3D printer. You can see here we have your basic acrylic door that slides open. It's got your pretty basic hinge, connects in both spots here, and it uses magnets to actually close against this metal here. So if you want to close it, you hear it just kind of clinks closed, and so it's just like I said, your basic acrylic door held on with magnets and a hinge. It has a touch screen right here. This is how you're going to do a lot of your basic operations with the printer. Like things like leveling the print bed, changing your filament, and all that kind of stuff is done all right here. That's your main interface. It's got the power plug on the side here, as well as your USB connection and card reader connection are all going to be right here. Your filament spool will go inside of the printer right there, right next to the print bed. It comes with your basic acrylic print bed, as well as these Dremel stickers to just kind of stick to the print surface. These are going to kind of be your blue tape in this scenario. A lot of people use blue tapes on their printer bed to help with adhesion and protection of the bed. And that's pretty much what this black piece right here will act as. And they give you an extra one as well. So you have this spare one when this one starts to get icky and bad. Now I'm not sure, I haven't gone through one yet. This one's still been working out fine for me. But they say that these are supposed to be good for 80 plus prints, I believe it said. So if you look up here, the top comes off and gives you easy access to the guts and stuff of the printer. You can kind of see right there, my hand sticking down. Let me reorient to the camera and we will show you the extruder and all that fun stuff. Alright, so right here you can pretty much see this is going to be the main interior of the printer. This is pretty much what does all the work. This is your workhorse right here. The extruder head and the fans for blowing on the filament as it is laid on the bed to help it cool. So you can see right here we have a filament going into it. The type of filament that this printer uses is 1.75 millimeter. It does not use ABS, it only takes PLA. So for this particular printer, it's only going to be able to use PLA. And the reason for that is because it doesn't have a heated bed. Now, the extruder reaches up to 220 to heat up the filament, which can, I believe, be used with ABS. But like I said, because it doesn't have the heated bed, you're going to have a lot of trouble with warping and stuff like that, and it's going to want to come off of the print bed. So it's best to just stick with good old-fashioned PLA. Now, I've been looking around for different types of modifications and stuff like that for heated beds in this model, but I have not found one. So like I said, it's best probably just to look at this printer if you're only going to use PLA. As far as I know, ABS is really more so for more robust parts. It's the heavier duty stuff, and it's better at taking impact is going to be the main difference when compared to PLA. But yeah, PLA is going to be non-toxic. It's very friendly just to have in the household and use. There's no weird funky fumes that are really overwhelming. It does have a smell when it's working, but like I said, I don't find it overwhelming at all, which I hear compared to ABS. ABS is really overwhelming. You definitely want to have it well ventilated. But yeah, so that's just your basic look at your extruder head. Alright, so now we're kind of looking at the print bed here. And the way that the print bed works in this one is the print bed is in control of your up and down movements. So your extruder in here, which I'm not sure that you can see, but it's up there. It goes left and right and back and forth that way. So left and right, and then in and out, like that. Whereas your print bed is going to go up and it's going to go down. So the print bed is pretty much going to control the height of your print object. So every time that it needs to, it's going to move up and or down to allow your object to continue building on that excess. Whereas your filament head is going to control your X and your Y. So filament head is the X and the Y. The bed is going to be in control of your Z. So that's pretty much the way that the printer works. We'll start it up real quick and probably go through a walkthrough of the menus. All right, so here we have the menu, and as you can see, there are two main big icons. There's build and then there's tools. What you're going to be in more so than not is going to be the tools. I haven't really had to tinker around too much in the build. Like that comes more so into play when you're using the memory card. I do not use the memory card. I'm actually actively using the USB connection to print directly from my computer. So this menu, like I said, I don't really mess with. You know, there's not really much to do other than when you first pull it out of the box and you're messing with it. Most of the stuff you're going to find in tools. Like that's where you're going to spend most of your time. And you have all your different settings. Like your jog mode here is going to be used to pretty much just mess with your printer when you need to trim a little bit of filament off of your print head before you level the bed. That kind of stuff is pretty much what you're going to do in there. You actually have the command for leveling it. It levels, actually I didn't go over this, but it levels using on the print bed. There are these adjustment screws that are they're tensioned by springs, and so essentially what you're going to do is you're going to be using those springs to essentially tension the bed to where you want it, so that you can slide a thin piece of paper, which is actually this one that comes with the printer, between the bed and the print nozzle to get it perfectly level, to ensure that your printer is level for printing, and you get a nice good adhesion on those early layers. Pretty much you're gonna spend a lot of time leveling this thing. I was reading you want to level it probably every print you do for this particular model. They say it's really finicky about that, and after doing a nice bit of printing, I would have to say that I definitely agree. Leveling the print bed is definitely key to making this whole thing work smoothly. So that's jog mode. We went over level. Filament, this little button right here is gonna be essentially how you load and unload your filament from your extruder. And what that pretty much does is it allows the extruder to heat up to the working temperature of the material, essentially, to be able to either pull the PLA out, or B, to be able to feed PLA in, and it will also just kind of run until it purges the material. And that you'll have to manually stop after you're done loading the material. So we got the filament, we got preheat, which is pretty much, I haven't had to use it much, but it comes into play more so, like I said, when you're doing maintenance on the device, when you need it to heat up, or if you want to have it heated and ready to go before you actually print a part, you can use that. And then there are settings, which is pretty much your just basic crap that you're never gonna have to worry about as the end user. You set it to your language and then you're good. You're never really going to need to mess around with any of this other stuff or your factory reset unless, maintenance comes into play. So, yeah, that's a brief look at the menu. One other useful thing is actually when you're updating the firmware of the printer, you will automatically do that through Dremel's software. And it's kind of buggy. When you update it, it doesn't tell you if you're at the latest version or not. It just kind of takes whatever's there, so it won't actually say like, oh, no need to update, you're good. So in order to check that out, I've actually had to do that once or twice just to make sure that it was actually upgrading the firmware. You just go into About here and you will see the firmware number there, and if it actually upgraded, that number should correlate with the number on your computer. And actually, I'd never noticed this before, but you can see I've
I've got a nice bit of time printing on this thing. I've tested the hell out of it, but yeah, 42 hours of print time for my usage. So I gotta say, since I got this thing, I've went through a whole spool, and I didn't think it took that long, but yeah, evidently 42 hours of printing. So that'll give you some idea of how much I've tested this and how fully formed my opinion is. Okay, so pretty much as far as print quality goes, this thing is pretty solid. It's 10 microns or 100 microns or whatever, but it's essentially, it's a very fine increment at which it lays down every layer and really allows you to grasp detail. So I have a few parts here, and you can see I've got Digimon Crest that I printed, and you kind of see there. I'll adjust this in a second so we can get close-ups on it. And then I've also done this Digivice, which were both pre-made things found on Thingiverse, and you kind of see, like, it's got a nice bit of detail to it. You know, you don't have to struggle too hard to really see what that is if you're familiar with it. And so I've went ahead and I printed these things, and I 3D modeled this one myself. It's a smaller part to a bigger thing here, and I've actually primered this one in. And I gotta say, like, once you primer it in, like, you can barely even tell that this thing is really 3D printed unless you get up close here, because I haven't really done as much work finishing this because something's going to be glued there and it doesn't really matter. But these edges right here are pretty solid. Like they're by no means perfect or done, but this served its purpose as a good test piece. Like, you really see, like, with some time and sanding, like, you won't even notice that this thing was printed. So I'll go ahead and we will do a close-up. So let's set these down. So get this focused. So you can see here, like, this pretty good close-up, all in focus. Like, in there, you kind of see things fading through a little bit. I didn't work too hard on it, but, like, for that roundness, like, you could barely even tell there were print lines there. And this is all just primer. This is all just primer that's been sanded. So on the top, again, something's going to get glued there, so it doesn't really matter too much. And you kind of see, because this top part was really messed up on this one, which is part of why it became a test for me to see how it would work out. So the top layer right there was pretty messed up, but the bottom layer was good. And again, you can barely even tell, like, that this one was printed at all. Like, and of course, like, with the top and in here, all that could probably actually be fixed up rather well if I just spent more time on it. But because it was a test, you know, I wasn't really too worried about it. I reprinted this and am going to be going over that probably later, which might actually become its own video, but right now I'm still working everything out. So here is the Digivice close up, if I can center it in the frame. And again, you can find this on Thingiverse. I modified this one a bit because I wanted to print it on the back. But yeah, like, you could tell right now it was 3D printed, of course. Like, you got the lines there. You know, like, it's not the cleanest either. It had some issues with the model. I actually had to fight with it a little bit. But, you know, you can mainly tell on the back. It's really messed up on the back. But I was thinking that I'd probably be finishing this up with Bondo, and eventually I think I'm going to model my own. But this model, if you can get it and edit it from Thingiverse, like I said, it's fairly decent, which is why I've just decided to go ahead and use this for the project I'm currently working on. You know, like, it's a really good one. It's just the model isn't perfect, that's all. But yeah, it still prints, and it still looks pretty good in my opinion. And so finally, this is a Digimon Crest, which I also found on Thingiverse. I really wish that I remembered the names of all the users, because I would share that. This one actually, I tried to go to this website. You probably shouldn't, because, like I said, well, I haven't said it yet, but it doesn't work. The website doesn't work But that's essentially who made it, whoever the hell 3D Moth is, or a group or whatever. That's who made this one. And I'll link to their stuff. I'll link to the actual files on Thingiverse down below if you guys are interested in that. But yeah, that's pretty much it for what I've printed that I really want to share. The basic test print when you get it is this guy. It's Dremel's little logo with a frog on it. So, you know, that's probably one of the first things you'll run when you get the printer. And again, like for you know, just being on camera, like this thing, it doesn't look bad at all. Like in person, you could really see the details a little bit more. You can see the steps on the back, and then, you know, that gives you a little bit more detail about well, not detail, a little bit more information about the rough quality of the print straight off the bed. Alright, so now that we've had a good look at the printer and, you know, the print quality and stuff, I'm going to tell you what I didn't like. One of the big things I don't like about the Dremel printer right now is that Dremel is very insistent that you don't use any filament but theirs, and there isn't really a reason not to use other filament. Like, they really can't give a better reason from what I've found in my research as to why their filament is better than any other filament. It just is. So, which pretty much means that they're trying to make the proprietary claim that only their stuff works with their printer, when that's not the case. Like, there is other filament out there that you can get and that you can use. They don't want you to use it, and I think they go as far as to say that using other filament voids your warranty. That being said, I have actually bought other filament, and I haven't done it yet, but this is a 1 kilogram spool. The spools that this guy is meant to take is 0.5 kilogram. So the smaller size spool is really what this printer is meant for. I haven't figured out how I'm going to do it yet, and I actually plan to make a video out of that next, is a modification, or at least some method at which I can easily fit this spool into a type of rack and feed it into the printer without too much of a problem. I don't think it will be a problem. I think that it'll actually work out rather well. It's just I have to sit down and design it and figure out how I'm going to do it. And there are mods out there for this printer as far as the printer spool goes. So there are people who have made on Thingiverse and posted different spool types and different, connectors and whatnot. The problem with that is, for the one internally on the printer, you actually have to take the bottom of the printer off to be able to switch that part out. Something that I don't really think is worth the hassle, because for this size spool, it's actually going to come really close to the print bed, and I would rather nothing really get in the way of that print bed. Like I said, it's moving up and down constantly. It's not really something that I want to do. If I can avoid constricting the movement at all, or even coming close, I'm just going to go the other route. Like I said, right now, the spool I got in there, it isn't Dremel. It is a 0.5 kilogram spool, and it's working rather nicely. I haven't done a test print with it yet, but earlier when I extruded it out and swapped it out, it fed in there beautifully, like not even a problem. And when it came out, it seemed like it was going to be perfectly fine. So again, like as long as it's 1.75 millimeters, it will work fine in this printer. So I've read, and I'll let you guys know if I find anything otherwise. But yeah, as of the moment, there's no reason not to. So like other than the filament, issues, I don't feel like there's anything else that I really have to complain about. I've only used one spool in the printer, and like there's definitely a learning curve. But I feel like Dremel, the Idea Builder here, is probably one of the easiest out of the box solutions if you're just trying to learn, if you're just starting out. I feel like I never 3D printed before this, and I feel like I was relatively easily able to pick it up and get going, like with little to no downtime time. So like learning the settings and like just the basic gist of everything is like the hardest work you'll have to do. Other than that, though, things will come out. Like, you're gonna have a few failed prints at first. You're gonna have prints that just don't work out right, and the
biggest annoyance is probably going to be just figuring out how to get things sticking to the bed just right. But once you got that down, I feel like now my biggest complaint is not being able to get things off of the bed because I stuck them so well, you know. But yeah, like I said, I think that this is a really good printer, and I think it is the best way to get into 3D printing and, you know, just get the most out of your buck for it. It retails for only it retails for $999, which after taxes and, you know, whatever, it's gonna be a little bit over $1,000. But yeah, like I said, I think it's the best way to get into the hobby, you know, or like if you really want to build things with it. It's not the most effective way to build things, but for props and stuff like that, which is primarily what I'm using it for right now, it's really helpful. It's really like I can't even express how awesome it has been to just be like, you know, like I got this little thing that I've just been working on and I can't get this one detail quite right, to just be able to like take that and put it in the 3D software and just slam it out and print it and it exists is freaking phenomenal. Like I love it, and if you're gonna buy this printer, I would say I give it a solid 9 out of 10. Like, it is a great investment, and I recommend it. So I hope that this review has helped you make a decision on purchasing or not purchasing this 3D printer or a 3D printer in general. If you guys have any feedback, any questions you guys have about this printer, go ahead and leave them down in the comments down below. I will try to answer any questions that I come across, assuming that I feel adequate, you know, enough to answer those questions. And yeah, if you guys like reviews, you know, don't forget to like, favorite, subscribe, what have you. I do more reviews, and I'm planning some videos about building things and cosplay. So if any of those things sound appealing to you and you want to see maybe more 3D printing stuff, go ahead and subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.